Fran? This is the data where it's issued. Just send it on. What about the bills, Mike?
JC's got the bills.
Okay. It's an organized. It's an organized. Scott's got two of them.
He does, and we're gonna do these two last.
These two first then.
These two first.
All right, I know where to sign. This is a similar,
And you got this.
but the others are real. Yeah, I'm gonna let the legislators talk about it.
Okay, well, we'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Roosevelt City Council. A notice of the time, date, and place of this meeting has been posted on this building, also on the city website, and also on the state meeting website. It's been also given to members of the governing body and the press. So we again want to welcome all of you here tonight. We do have a roll that's being passed around. If you haven't had it yet, please sign in so that we get everybody who's here. And if somebody comes a little later, help us to get that accomplished if you would. I might mention, some of you may not know it, but this is not Councilman Burdick.
It's an uglier version.
Before we get into our meeting, I'd just like to say what an honor it is for us to have the governor of the state of Utah here with us, Governor Herbert. We're so thrilled to have him here with us and that he would take time out of his busy schedule to be here with us and to share time with those of us out here in eastern Utah. It's an exciting time for us. Also, I'm really excited to see so many young people here. This is great to see some of the future leaders of our area out here here with us tonight. Anyway, to get started in the meeting, we have it posted, the agenda up on the screens. You can follow along. We'll first of all do our roll call for our city council. Just call here as I call your name if you would. Albert Foster.
Here.
Aaron Waite.
Here.
Joe Burdick, as I said, normally sits next to me. Joe is in FBI citizen training at this time, and we're proud of that, and he's excited to be doing that, and he'll be back shortly with us in our council meetings. He feels real bad that he was unable to be here tonight, but
He gave me his proxy, though, in case you need one.
that's great. We may. Dustin White
Here.
and Troy Rohr.
Present.
Thank you. We'd like to start our meeting off tonight with a word of prayer. I've asked Councilman Dustin White to give that prayer, and then when he's through, if you'd stand and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be here this evening, grateful for this wonderful land in which we live, for the freedoms that we enjoy, grateful for the opportunity we have to participate in our city government, grateful for our state leaders being here, and grateful for the support we receive. We pray that Thou will continue to bless and guide us as we do our best to better our city and our community and our state, that we may continue to enjoy those blessings and freedoms which have been so generously given. We pray for our police force and for our firefighters and those who are in public service to keep us safe and provide those services which are necessary. Pray that they will be kept safe and continue to be able to perform their duties. We also pray for those in the armed forces, that they will be watched over and protected, as well as those who lead and guide our country, that they will be guided to do those things that will be most beneficial to maintain our freedoms and the present state of our country. We're indeed grateful for these many things, and ask for this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of great people here, and I'd like to go along and introduce all of you, but I would especially like to mention that I haven't yet, that we've got Senator Van Tassel and Representative Chu here with us tonight. We appreciate them being here also. Oh, yes, and I talked to her. That, she drove over from Price to be here with us tonight, so thank you. Let's go to the minutes then from our last meeting. This is our meeting of March 7th. Are there any additions or corrections to page 1? Page 2? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman White. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councilman White. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. As I said a few minutes ago, we're particularly thrilled to have the governor and his staff here with us tonight, and also our other state representatives. But this is a very special night for us, partly and mainly because they're even here with us, but also that they're for the purpose that they're here. So what I'd like to do at this point is turn some time to Governor Herbert, the governor of the great state of Utah, and let him present what he would like to do and take the time he needs tonight, if he would.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'm really honored to be here with all of you, and as I see the beginnings of the City Council meeting, as some of you know, I come from local government myself, it does give me a comfort to know that this kind of event is taking place, maybe not on tonight, but on individual evenings and days throughout our state. Our 29 counties, our 243 cities, this is a common occurrence. And it really is America in action. It's certainly how we do things in Utah. A prayer and a pledge. And I think that's a significantly important thing of how we do things in Utah. I hope that across America they do the same things that we do in Utah. Because I do believe that's how you ought to start things, a prayer and a pledge. Prayer and asking for some divine guidance with a pledge to our country, and also ourselves saying, let's live appropriately that we can invoke the blessings of heaven to be upon us. And the good times and the not so good times. We are a blessed people here in Utah. You're blessed out here in Roosevelt. You're blessed out here in the Basin. And whether it's the good times or the not so good times, the challenging times which we're going through out here, we ought to recognize we have significant blessings in life. So I appreciate the example you're setting for me and for the rest of the state by how you conduct yourselves out here in Roosevelt City. So congratulations, Mayor. I do recognize our great legislators which are here, our county commissioners that are here, again, the business community, all working together to improve the opportunities for the people we represent. I ought to recognize our own staff here. Where's my chief of staff? Speaking of chief, always in the back here. Standing room only, so he's sitting in the back there. And appreciate Justin Harding and my chief of staff. He spent 15 years, if you can imagine. It's almost like a sentence, a prison sentence. 15 years in Washington, D.C. And really has helped us with that communication need in Washington. We're trying to break him of all of his bad habits here in Utah. But doing a great job running our staff and doing a great job for us. Originally from rural Utah, from Cedar City area, and what's your hometown?
Cedar City and Minersville.
Minersville. So he recognizes rural Utah very well. We have a lot of people from rural Utah in my administration. J.C. Skinner, where are you from, J.C.?
I grew up in Payson, born in Monticello, in Blanding.
San Juan County area. So again, a rural, she's my legal counsel, so she helps to make sure that we stay on the straight and narrow path. Where's my deputy chief of staff?
I've got your back, Governor.
You got my back. Mike Maurer, tell us where you're from, Mike.
Proud to say I'm from Farron, Utah.
Farron, Utah, Henry County,
Thanks to
so
the two of you
Christine
who
knows.
applauded. I used to live in Castledale.
You know, one of the common threads that we find in government is that, you know, all roads go to your hometown, you know, and Farron is on the map and circled because of Mike Maurer, and again, doing a great job. He's our outreach to intergovernmental relations. He's been to all of our 243 cities and our 25 ghost towns, you know, and trying to make better relationships with that. He's kind of our Indiana Jones guy. But anyway, good staff people doing a lot of the heavy lifting and the work in the governor's office. But the person I've saved for last is the person who really does run the state of Utah. And right behind the First Lady, maybe, that's but her name, maiden name was Fran Jones. And Fran is here with her mother, Roberta Jones. Her father was Clarence Jones, passed away, but Roberta's here with us. We're so honored to have you here with us, Roberta. You raised a great daughter. And if anybody wants to get a hold of me, if my wife wants to get a hold of me, if anything needs to be done, put on the schedule, they call Fran. She is, in fact, the gatekeeper. Fran, where are you from?
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. The person who really runs the state of Utah is from right here in Roosevelt. So anyway, we're honored to be here with you, and we won't take too much of your time, Mayor, but thank you for allowing us to come in and be a part of your city council. You know, I take great pride, and it doesn't take a lot to get me to kind of brag about Utah. There's a lot of good things going on. We're very blessed people, and I'm grateful, I'm humble, but I don't miss many opportunities to brag about Utah. And we have been named the most business-friendly state in America 6 out of the last 7 years by Forbes magazine. And it's not just Forbes, there's many other publications that look at us as a state in its entirety and say, wow, what a great place to live, to raise a family, to do business. As part of that, though, recognizing that there's needs in our communities, certainly off the Wasatch Front, to make sure we don't forget that maybe every area is not as successful currently as others. We've challenged all of our cities and our counties to see what they can do to become business friendly. And as I rode in from the airport with the mayor, you know, he talked about with this little bit of a downturn in the market, particularly with energy prices being down, it's a chance to reevaluate, to see what are we doing right, what is working, what is not working, what do we need to do to change to make it better. And that's probably life, you know. We ought to also take time to reflect and say what's working and what isn't working, what can I do to improve the outcomes. And that's what's happened here in Roosevelt. And so we appreciate the fact we've had strong support from the Chambers of Commerce, from the business community, from the League of Cities and Towns, in saying we can become more business friendly. And you've taken that on as an assignment. Appreciate Ryan Snow, city manager, again, a long time family friend. I've known the Snows for a long time. His dad, he was in the legislature, and his uncle. I was the president of the Utah Association of Realtors, worked with his uncle Lynn. And a lot of my good things, the attributes I've learned came from the Snow family. So he's arranged for us to be here today and learn a little bit more about what you've done. You've adopted a vision, mission, and guiding principles that say Roosevelt City Vision. Roosevelt is the energy hub of Utah. The mission of Roosevelt City. Is it somewhere behind me?
It's right behind you.
Well, you can all read yourself. I'll prove to you I can read too. Roosevelt City will be economically friendly to business, industry, and promote the entrepreneurial spirit by providing essential services that create a safe environment for all citizens to raise their families, worship, enjoy recreational opportunities, and serve in the community. And the four guiding principles are reliability, community health, and safety, communication, and cooperation. Those are a great mission statement and guiding principles for not only Roosevelt, but probably for all of us. So we appreciate and I commend you for your efforts. And let me just invite, before I've got a document I'm going to sign, but Mayor, would you like to just add what have you done and what's yet to be done? What can we do as a state to help you? So just tell me what you've done to become more business friendly in Roosevelt.
Okay, thank you, Governor. Really, this goes back a little ways, not really that far, but I got to give a lot of credit to our city manager, Ryan Snow. He attended the Utah League of Cities and Towns conference and got excited about some of these prospects of things you could do to improve your city and make it more business friendly. And he came back with a desire to see Roosevelt accomplish as much as we could of that. And so he went to work along with our staff, which we're very proud of, and came up with ideas and some efforts that we could take a look at. Over the past year or so, our city council, some of you probably have attended some of the city council meetings and gotten bored and left because we've gone over our bylaws and our codes and all of things of that nature, and had some professional expertise help us in updating and improving all of that. And the council has listened to it all and made the decisions in how to update those things to make ourselves more up to date, more with the times, and to be ready to go forward. As the governor said, we talked about the fact that we've had a little bit of a downturn the last few years, and we all know it. It's not anything new. It's been fairly severe in some cases, but we are really seeing a change of direction. We're seeing some things turn the right direction, and we're hopeful that as things happen in the federal government, that we will see more and more help in development of energy, and which will, of course, help our economy and encourage businesses to come here. But we have physically sat down and addressed those items and tried to make it so that we could do a better job. We've also gone up and down Main Street and other streets as far as that goes, and looked at our buildings, talked to our business owners. What can we do to improve? What can we do to make it look better? So it's more inviting. What can we do for parking? Not that we've got everything solved. We're doing things as we can, but we're actively involved in trying to make this a better place. We love Roosevelt. I can speak for the whole council. They wouldn't be serving on the city council if they didn't love this community. And we love this town, and we want to see it successful and continue to be a great place to live. And so any things that we can do, and we've seen some great improvements. I have to give a thank you to the governor and the state for example, for CIB funds. I don't know how many of you know what those are involved in, but I can drive around this town and at any time I can point out 2 or 3 projects that we would not have if we didn't have CIB funds available. A good example is our aquatic center and some of our roads and improvements there and our parks, etc. And so it's a collaborative effort, but we have gone to help from the state, and the state's been great to help us, and we're making every effort we can that we know how to do the best we can to look forward to the future. And we appreciate all of you in supporting us in trying to support you in that way.
Thank you, Mayor. And with that, let me just, I brought a little certificate out here, and it reads, in acknowledging the success of our outstanding municipalities I, Gary R. Herbert, Governor of the State of Utah, do hereby recognize Roosevelt as a business-friendly city on this day of March the 15th of 2017. The Lieutenant Governor has already signed it, and I'll just add my John Hancock here. And although it says Gary Herbert, but I'll present that to you, Mayor. And here's the signing pen, which is very symbolic of Utah. 19 cents or 99 cents, so we're very fiscally prudent. Only been used once, but we'll give you that signature signing pen as a souvenir, and you can put that on the wall. Congratulations for
Thank you very much.
what you're doing in Roosevelt.
I'm very proud of this. This is for all of you. This is for everyone here, and before the governor goes on, I have,
Okay, I'll get one more thing.
we've never done this before that I remember, but we have a key to the city of Roosevelt that we'd like to give to the governor. And I expect that he'll put this on his keychain. Whenever you see him, you'll be able to hear it dangling and jangling around. And we appreciate so much you being here. And,
Well, thank you. And I'm not going to put it on my keychain. I don't get to drive much anymore. But I am going to put it in my formal office where people can see it on display. And we get a lot of people that come through my office at the Capitol. And they'll say, hey, you got any keys? And I say, right here, key to Roosevelt. So I'll
welcome
put that.
anytime.
So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Let me just conclude. I'll try to be brief, but I do want to recognize, there's no better honor than to be the governor of the great state of Utah. It's humbling. It's certainly hard work. It's rewarding, but it's nice to see the fruits of our labor and the successes we're having, and to see when I hosted 6 or 7 governors here just a couple of weeks ago that were in town up at Park City, and every one of them said, "My gosh, Utah's doing well. If my state was just doing half as good as Utah." We're getting recognition from people outside our borders that really think we have something special going on, and we do. And I appreciate getting those compliments, but I accept those compliments in behalf of you and the people of Utah, our 3 million plus people that really have got good principles and good values, that leads to electing good officials, which leads to developing good policy, which gives us good outcomes. It really is a kind of a formula. And I just want you to know that how much I appreciate our legislators. I'm kind of like the quarterback of a football team. If the team's doing well, you probably get more credit than you deserve. If it's not doing so well, you probably get more blame. But I recognize the significant heavy lifting and the hard work of our state legislators. And they leave their families, they come to Salt Lake, they spend 45 days in a concentrated period of time in debating, discussing issues, policy, pros and the cons, and pressures on them from everybody throughout the state saying do this, do that. It's sometimes not lost in that about they just passed a $16.1 billion budget of how we prioritize our taxpayers' dollars to make sure that we have appropriate prioritization. Money's going into education more than ever before in our history. Recognizing our young people need to have a good educational opportunity because you are, sooner than you probably realize, are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. We need to prepare you today so you can take over tomorrow. Some of you will be here in the city council. Some of you will be in the legislature. Business people, who knows, maybe a governor or two here in this group here with us today. But again, the efforts of the legislature are significant. It's not easy. It's hard work. And they've done another great job in this legislative session just completed. And so I've brought a couple of bills out here to let them maybe talk about, if you wouldn't mind. I've got, I'll go in this order if it's okay. We have Christine came all the way from Carbon County here to be with us tonight. I'm going to have you go first and talk about Senate Bill 177 that you sponsored along with David Hinkins in the Senate. And I can't even pronounce the title, so I'll let you do that. But we all know that there are rare diseases that nobody thinks about. and yet we have people that are suffering. This is, again, where government can help bring us together and bring awareness to an issue that helps us find solutions. So I'm going to have you, Christine, if you'll come up and talk about Senate Bill 177. And then after you talk about that, I'm going to have Senator Van Tassel, our great senator from the basin here, talk about Senate Bill 91, Native American Child Welfare Amendments. And I'll have you speak second. And then I'll follow up with Representative Chu. If you can talk about your two bills that you've got here, House Bill, and you take whatever order you want. House Bill 117 has to do with provisions related to legal notice of publications in the newspaper and general circulation, and the livestock, which is House Bill 217. So can we go in that order? And all right, Christine, we're going to have you go first. I don't know if there's a microphone
You can
here for
use
you.
that lectern if you want.
Right here. This
Oh,
is
sure.
right
Yeah,
there.
I'll just stand right here.
Right here. Okay.
Okay, for the young people in here, when we're in the legislature, we're really not there for ourselves. We're there for our constituents. And a bunch of you are my constituents, depending on where you live over here. But this one was an email sent to Senator Hinkins, and it was a young woman in Farron, and she suffers from this disease, and I'm going to try and say it, and it's called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, and the bill was awareness. And I actually had to look it up because it is so rare and so uncommon that I did not know what it was. And it's where something happens in the womb and a baby's born, and their tendons at your joint are kind of frozen. And there's nothing they can do about it. So you may be frozen this way, it may be frozen this way, and it can affect anywhere in your body. And so she sent this email to Senator Hinkins saying, I was born here in Farron, I've lived here all my life, and I haven't found anybody like me. And she found out that there was a group, a national group. It's not huge, thank goodness, because this is not something anybody would want to have. And so she was able to get help to attend their national conference. She has now been to several of them. And one of the things they advocate for is a day to acknowledge this disease and to help people understand what it is, and hopefully have research to find out exactly why it is, why it happens, and help for them to make it easier for them to function in their life. And one of the things she said was, if we can get this day in Utah, maybe this national group will be able to come to Utah and hold a convention here. So this was what he filed, and I co-sponsored it. Of course, he's on the Senate side, I'm on the House, and it passed without hardly anyone voting against it. So this is an example of a constituent saying, I need some help, I'd like some awareness, will you help me? And we were very happy to do this. I spent 30 years in Castledale, right next door, and although I don't know this young woman, and of course now I live in Carbon County, so it was an honor to be able to do this for her.
All right. Well, thank you, Christine. Let me just sign this now. This is a ceremonial copy. We've already signed the actual bill. But I'll give you that back.
Okay.
And here's the ceremonial pen. All right.
Well, it's good to have everyone here and see you all. It's a great opportunity to serve out there. I finally quit running bills and doing budget in my head last Thursday, and finally started sleeping Sunday. So it's good to be here. Senate Bill 91 came about as a result of the request of the 7 recognized tribes in the state of Utah, including the Ute tribe here in the Uinta Basin. Believe it or not, there are more tribal members that live off the Uinta Basin than are off the reservations that live on it. And they became very desirous, by which they would like to see some foster homes set up where they could maintain their native culture. And so this bill we worked on it a year ago on our in the Native American Liaison Committee. We got into it, was gonna run it, and found out there's a lot more research we need to be, and so we took an extra year, and we've done that. We brought Division of Child and Welfare Services in, the Attorney General's office, all of the tribes. And so what the bill actually allows the tribes to do is to establish a foster home off of the reservation and be able to allow their children to attend and move into a foster home. And they believe that it meets a great need, and I agree with them. And we worked on the bill in the Native American. It came out fairly early and passed, and I almost forgot about it. That happened. But I would like to say one additional thing, Governor. Thank you. The governor talks about that $16.1 billion budget, and I've put together a number of loans in my life, but I've never put together a $16 billion budget in my life. And it's been a great experience because you get 104 legislatures playing in it, then the governor and his staff play in it, and they go off and have meetings by themselves, and they come back and says, Kevin, by the way, we did this.
Just take care of it.
And say, take care of it, fix that. So anyway, for the Uinta Basin, and particularly Duchesne County, one of the things that we wanted most was we got through on the building process, and the Applied Technology Center down here needs a new welding shop. We have people that can't get in, and so we got through and we did the first bill, and we didn't make it. And I was mad and gonna quit and go home and pout. Decided that wasn't the right to do it. But anyway, so at the end of the day, on the bill of bills, you will find $4.35 million for the building of a new welding shop here in Roosevelt, which will employ, how many, President?
3. Employ 3 or
3 people, but train how many people in the
probably
company?
250, 300 a year.
Most of them are ready to go to work when they graduate. In fact, the Applied Technology Center has a welder that is going for the World Championship in Dubai, right?
In October, yes.
In October, so.
We should all go there.
We have a great program, we have great instructors. It was a great win for the Uinta Basin, and makes us a business friendly, so thank you.
Give him a round of applause. This has to be enrolled. This is the actual bill, so we won't give that, but I will give you the pen. Senator, you can have that. Representative Chu, we have 2 bills here for you.
Let's talk about HB 117 first. That's what most of these young people are here for.
Okay.
This bill started a year ago. I know you got your picture taken outside with the young family that was out here. And our local at Nicolad's said that we've got an issue with our statute that talks about legal notices. And it says that they're supposed to be mailed in second-class mailing, and second-class mailing no longer exists. And we feel like that we should qualify to be able to put up legal notices. And so we started the bill last year, a year ago, and it made it to committee, and we had some questions we couldn't answer, and it got held. So we picked it up again last spring and started it, and we got it ready to go right at first of session. And I got to thinking, you know what? I would really like to know how many people in Vernal would, that there might be a possibility that they want to see the legal notices in the Nicolad's, because a lot of what newspapers they're reading. So I asked the Uinta High School principal if she thought it would be okay if we could get one of the classes, if they had a government affairs class that could maybe run a survey for us. And they took it and done an excellent job, and that's who's here, is the government. And then I found out they were going to be at the Capitol on the 17th, so I asked the committee that it was assigned to if they would have that bill ready, if we could run it that day. And they did, and these guys came, and some of these students helped present the bill. And I've got to say, they really got a crash course in what standing committees are, because they had a bill that was ahead of theirs that was the longest bill I've ever sat through. They had to sit there through that bill.
know.
And then they were able to present, and the committee was very good at asking questions and then we were able to do the same thing when it went to the Senate. So these students have helped this bill and their survey they done and everything, and they got a taste of what we do up on the Hill, and so I was really pleased to think that they could do that, and that's what this bill's about.
Well, thanks to you and thanks to the class and young people.
Would you mind inviting the kids up to get their picture with you?
I don't mind.
All right.
Come on up. We're going to get a picture with all the young people here. For the official signing here. Okay, this
Short people in the front.
whoever's in charge of the cameras, tell them where to stand. We want everybody to
Hey,
see,
you should take a picture on my phone. Just airdrop it. Just double click the home button.
and we can always, email to each other so we get a good picture here. The technology, right? So where are we looking? Which camera are we looking at first?
Me first.
I'll look at, yeah.
Farron, yeah, it's the only time people look at it.
All right. This is House Bill 117. Chief sponsor, Representative Scott Chu. Senate sponsor, Jake Anderegg. And amends the provisions related to legal notices for the publication in the newspaper of your general circulation. You've heard the explanation. And I'm going to sign this copy here. All right, and now this is a, this
That's the real deal.
is the real deal, so we can't give you. Yeah. All right, gotta keep that. We'll get you a ceremonial copy that you can kind of hang in your class or something at school. And where's Representative? I'll give you the.
You know what, I'm going to give this to the teacher because I've got another pen coming up, right?
Okay. It's your pen. You
Sorry,
can
should
do
we
with it what
that?
you want.
But, and then you
So-
can raffle it off with the students this
Okay.
spring.
I have $160 right now.
Hey, thanks to our young people.
Governor, on my next bill, I've got some folks back here, the sheriff and the deputy, the brand inspector. I'd like them to come forward and we'll tell a little bit about this bill.
All right. Thank you.
You know, this is kind of historic, I feel, to see he sitting right here in the same room with the governor as he signs bills. That's a pretty neat thing that we've
Doesn't happen too often.
witnessed.
Okay. Governor, this bill's called livestock harassment, and it started last summer, and we had an incident upon the forest. Some young people chasing baby calves around on their four-wheelers and actually running over them and just causing havoc. And the way I understand it, the deputy here got the complaint, and then when we talked to the brand inspector and stuff, they got the people. It took a while, but they were actually videoed. You know how people have to video what they do and put it on YouTube and all of that. So anyway, they were able to get them, but then when they got them, we didn't have any statute to deal with livestock harassment. And so they just were charged with malicious mischief, I think it was. And so we decided we need to do this. We need to have a bill for livestock harassment. This one was an interesting one to do. We started out with it, and if we found out there's not another one in the whole United States. Utah's a leader again with this one. And not only is Utah a leader in America, it went across the Atlantic, and the British Broadcasting Corporation called me and wanted to know about it, because we included in here drones too, especially after last summer. Remember, we had to have a special session to address the drones that were
Caused about $10 million of additional damage to our fire.
And
our
so
forest.
so anyway, So the British were very drilled into this drone part of it. It was interesting when they talked to me because they thought that drones, that we had like military grade drones, and that's what us silly Yankees were chasing livestock around us. So it was interesting that we got it, and anyway, we got it passed through, and here it is, and we're dealing with if livestock is damaged and they reach certain proportions, they can be a felony, but they're a misdemeanor.
Thank you. All right, we're going to do a formal picture here. I'll be kind of photobombing this. I'll photobomb. So you got it? Okay. Let me sign it here.
Take a picture of this too. Orders from the top.
Well,
Or my top.
we can recreate.
Yeah, you're good. Right. No idea what it is. Aha! Perfect. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Anyway, Governor, this is our sheriff,
we've
Francis
met.
Norton, our brand
Yeah.
inspector, Kylie Wilkins, and
We've met.
Andy Minrod. So,
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you. Let me give you that for your.
and we really appreciate you inviting us to do this.
Thank you. Let me just sum up and we'll let you get on with your council meeting, Mayor. One, it's an honor to be out here. I hope we appreciate that we've allowed some young people to get involved. That's good training for them. It'll help prepare them to become good leaders. We ought to do more of that.
I certainly wish I'd have had that opportunity as a young person, because
Yeah.
I got out to the Capitol and didn't really know what I was stepping into.
All of us ought to go. I mean, people ought to go up there and see what you have to go through in these committee hearings, and their eyes will glaze over and they say, you guys want to be reelected? So I appreciate that. I'm reminded, we've had a number of young people, classes, as young as I think the last one we did on the state tree. I came from a 4th grade class in Sevier County, and they asked the question, why is the Colorado blue spruce the Utah tree? And of course, there's not really a good answer to that, but they said it ought to be something else, and the Quaking aspen was what they thought, the Utah aspen. So they went through, and their class worked really hard and got that presented, and we passed it in the legislature. And I went down to their school in Sevier County, I think it was Richfield area, was it Monroe, where we signed the bill. And they made a presentation as they had done it before the legislature. And my goodness, talk about an impressive group of 4th graders. And this one young man got up there, had a suit tie on there, and he just, he knew the pros and the cons, and he answered the questions, and he was just very astute and very articulate when it came to arguing in behalf of this bill. Anyway, afterwards I was talking to him and I said, hey, you did a wonderful presentation. Have you ever thought of running for office? And he said, oh yes, I'm going to run for elected office. I said, what office have you decided to run for? I want to run for the Vice President of the United States. I thought, nobody asked to run for the Vice President of the United States. I said, well, why do you want to run for the Vice President of the United States? And he says, because they don't kill the Vice President. So here's a guy thinking through the pros and the cons of elected office. Well, listen, let me just say again, it's nice to be here. And this is an example of issues that come to our representatives, our senators, that need solving. The government has a role to play. And working with you, they come together. They convince their colleagues that this is something that needs to be done, the proper role of government, and they do it with professionalism, civility, which is being lost around the country but still being maintained here in Utah. I know you see that with the mayor and the council here, and that collaborative spirit is somewhat unique. We were named, I've mentioned this to you before, you're probably tired of me saying this, but it's worth repeating. The United States Chamber of Commerce named us the #1 enterprising state in America, which is kind of like the best for business, but they've done that 2 or 3 years in a row. But they also have a metrics about why. What are you doing right? And it was on the front page of the Deseret News, and they were analyzing why Utah. But they said one of the secrets of Utah that they are having so much success is they said, we have found, this is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce speaking, that the spirit of collaboration and cooperation is found in greater abundance in the state of Utah than any other place in America. Now you think about that. The spirit of collaboration and cooperation is found in greater abundance in the state of Utah than any place in America. That is a secret to getting things done. You all know that. You exemplify that here in Duchesne County, here in the Basin, here in Roosevelt City. And so we thank you for the good example that you are, and thank you for letting us come and be a part of your council meeting tonight. It's great to be out here, and we're going to work with you to make sure that this area continues to have success, and we're going to help you with the economic recovery. We won't rest until every city and every county of Utah has economic opportunity. So thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. We're going to make sure that we help you.
Appreciate it.
And now we'll excuse ourselves.
Thanks, Governor.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Appreciate you coming. I thought most of you came to see us. What's the deal?
Thank you.
Gordon is sorry he could not be here. He is bringing it. It was a choice. He's with 2 grandsons that are going back to Texas. So anyway, I will. But he wanted me to make sure that you knew that he would have been here. Thank you. This was a privilege. Whatever it is at the end, I was fun. I haven't.
Okay, we'll go on now with our 5:35 item on the agenda. They're all important, but that one was tough to rush along and move faster, but we really appreciate that. It was wonderful. We've got some neat things still on the agenda for tonight. The next item is a presentation from Crescent Point Energy. It's a sandbag donation, and whoever's here to...
We got Jay Woodland, and he's with Crescent Point.
Perfect. Well, Mayor and Council, it's an opportunity we have we're grateful for. I'd like to also introduce, go ahead and bring it up, Bob. Derek Pym, who is our land manager for Utah, and Chris Noonan, myself, also with Crescent Point Land Department. And it was brought to our attention some time ago with news reports, and then just kind of paying attention to the snowpack on the mountain, that there's probably going to be a need. And we consulted our donations committee that we have, and obviously corporations, any prudent corporation is going to have a budget, and most of that was taken already, as you have to plan in advance, but there was a little bit of a slush fund. And so we looked at that to see if there was anything we could do, and determined that we'd like to donate a little bit of money to Roosevelt City, $1,000 for sandbags or flood mitigation as you see fit. The same donation has been given to Ballard City as well. Our office is kind of right in between Ballard and Roosevelt, and a lot of our employees are here in the area, and we take great pride in being a part of the community. I swam in the swimming pool with my family, and it has the same logo there on the pool as it does on my shirt, and recognize that Crescent Point is grateful to have the opportunity to participate in the community. With the check, we also talked to our local staff, our superintendent, and he can't be here tonight, he's out of town, but has also offered that if the city needs, or if the occasion arises, if we had a day or two's notice, we could probably bring a few guys out of the field in an afternoon if you had the sand ready, and go ahead and fill these sandbags for you as well. And so, just wanted to offer that, tell the city thank you for the opportunity to be here, and just have an opportunity to be here in the community and to be a positive support where we can.
Thank you very much. That's greatly appreciated, and let's give them a hand. As I think almost all of you know, Crescent Point has been a great partner in our recent kind of major item that we've done here in the community, that being our aquatic center. And they stepped up right at the very first and started the donations rolling a little bit so that others felt like, yes, this is probably going to happen, because Crescent Point donated some money, and so that really helped get the ball rolling, and we're forever grateful for that. And this is very much appreciated too. There is a lot of snow up there, and we learned last year that if it all comes at once, we're in big trouble. So, anyway, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
If you stand up on the side with them and they can stand all together.
Jake, if you stand here, we can get a little extra flash with you and I.
1, 2, 3, everyone suck in. Is that how that works?
All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks again.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great.
We've got the real check too. We'll give it to.
I'm going to endorse this one.
Chase will take it.
Thank you. Great to have people in the community that support in so many ways. Okay, our next item, Utah Local Government's Trust Safety Award presentation is Doug here.
I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's great to be here. It's always exciting coming to Roosevelt. This looks like you're having a great meeting tonight. So let's just add to that. Let's keep it going. So my name's Doug Folsom. I'm your loss prevention consultant with the Utah Local Government's Trust. I was out here last year to present you with the TAP Award, and the City of Roosevelt has received this award again for 2016. And just to remind you or let you know if you're not familiar with it, the Utah Local Government's Trust is a municipal insurance pool. We're government insurance for governments. We have about 500 plus members in the state of Utah that are all cities, counties, towns, special service districts, and that's what we live for, serving local governments in the state of Utah. In the loss prevention department, our goal is to prevent bad things from happening, whether that be liabilities or injuries to employees or members of the public where the city's involved. And the TAP program, the Trust Accountability Program, is designed to help cities and other members of the trust to implement best practices in preventing losses. And so we have a program that requires an active safety committee, an active program of investigating incidents and hazardous conditions so that we can improve the way we respond in the future. And so the TAP program, represents that there's a framework in place here in Roosevelt that we can use to make sure that we, continually improve our safety processes. And I'm here tonight to congratulate the city, the staff, Ryan and the rest of the staff for their efforts on this. It's recognized. We appreciate their efforts. Being the second year that the city's received this, there's some extra benefits for the city as well. I didn't bring a big giant check, but the city has already received about a $5,000 award from the trust for completing the TAP program for 2016, and also there'll be an increased discount in your workers' comp premium as well for having a consecutive year completing the TAP program. It's probably worth another $1,000 or so. So again, I'd just like to express my appreciation to you for your support of your staff, especially when it comes to safety matters, and to your staff for their efforts in this area. Any questions? That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that very much.
Glad to be here. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Like Councilman Wade just whispered to me, let's give our city staff a round of applause for receiving that award. Okay. We're catching up now. Next item is Strata water connection requests. Bo, Andy, whoever's gonna speak to us, Dennis? All of you can if you want.
First off, I don't know how you follow up the visit from the governor and checks and awards, but we'll try to make a brief.
We saved you for now.
With the request.
Yeah, with the request. I'm going to ask you for something. All my people end up paying for it still. As the agenda says, I'm here with Strata Networks. With me also to help answer any questions that the council may have, or Manager Snow is Andy Adamson and Dennis Atwood. But we are excited to come forward to council and formally request 3 water connections for a project that we have going on at the industrial district just next to the Roosevelt City Airport. Dennis did bring a preliminary drawing of what we propose to do. We can pass that around. I was reluctant to provide copies because it's
We should have it in our packet.
do you have it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I can just refer you to that, and if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them if I don't know the answer. I know that Mr. Atwood and Mr. Adamson know more than I do on this subject, but what we plan to do, and something we want to get started on within the next couple of months for sure, at least the infrastructure layout, is that road there that's running horizontal across the page there is Western Chemical is next to that. You see the 3 buildings. It's kind of hard to see from here, but the one on the right is the construction shop. In the middle is the general administration building, and then on the left is the new proposed warehouse building. But what Strata Networks desires to do is to construct these buildings and have them completed within the next year and a half or so. We've got quite a strict time frame on this, but this location will help move some of our facilities off of the flat top area, and with that UDOT road widening project, that's become more of a concern and issue for us when we're pulling the large trailers in and out of there with all the conduit and cabling. But in order to meet our water needs for those buildings, and then Dennis can speak to this in a little more detail, but we are going to require and requesting 3 water connections from the city that's going to jump off of that existing line there that Western Chemical is connected into at this time. I don't know how much Manager Snow or the mayor have had discussions, but there are some other future infrastructure benefits that can come from this. I believe the city may be interested in running some other utility services between lot 2 and 3 there, deepening the sewer line so that some more future developments can occur north of the airport, all of which we've been in discussion with the city up to this date. But that's the generality of it. I'm happy to field any questions that any of you may have as well.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. If you're prepared for a motion.
What if you are?
I'm prepared.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve all 3 of these water connections, and I want to express our appreciation to Strata for choosing Roosevelt City and for being engaged in the development there. I think it's fantastic.
I'll second that, Mayor.
Where is the Johnson Water?
No, I don't have a laser pointer.
That's a good question, Grant. The Johnson water line that we're aware of is just south of where you see lot 9 and lot 10, see where the cursor is. What they have there, they've got a 12-inch line. It's enough of a capacity, but it doesn't, we would have to bisect that chunk of property there.
I'm wondering about their service boundary, not necessarily the actual water line.
Well,
I think that they have, they provide water to our airport at this point, just so that the council's aware. The Johnson Water does provide water to the airport, and at this point they have a boundary that would include the area. Whether that makes a difference to you or not, but it does. We have had some issues with Western where we did service that one. So anyway.
And just so everybody's in the interest of full disclosure, Grant, that's a good question. You know, we have had conversations with Johnson Water. They're not exactly, as you can imagine, pleased with our options to you know, utilize Roosevelt City Services, but in addition, the facilities are not where we need them, whereas the cities are right there. Johnson Water, that I'm aware of, or been told that they also run north to south there at the airport. It's a 4-inch line, but that line's not big enough to meet our fire flow needs for those 3 buildings. And Dennis has had more communications with Johnson Water about that, but he'd be happy to answer any questions in that regard as well. But I guess Strata, from our perspective, we feel like we're in the city limits there. You know, I know there's been issues with Johnson Water boundaries and servicing areas and out with the city, but we want to utilize city services in addition to water and sewer. The city's going to maintain roads once they're put in. Those types of things that we obviously have a benefit getting from the city.
Have you considered a petition to withdraw from the water district?
No, it has not been something we've discussed.
Or do you think of the process?
I understand that there's been issues with when you're within their district getting city water, that there's some sort of taxation issue. Sometimes petition to withdraw is the benefit of that, but no, I'm unfamiliar with the process. Or if it's even.
You may want to tell us just how that process works. If ours is inside that area as well, you know, for the airport, if that's a process that may be something the council might entertain it as we move forward as well, so that sometime this process might be able to be resolved so there's not a potential overlap. So this might help us to move forward if the mayor would entertain that.
Grant, do you have any concerns legally on what we're doing? I'm getting that feeling.
I do, and I know that the city is supportive of what Strata's trying to do and wants to get to the bottom of this, but don't want to create additional problems in the process. And I don't know exactly where the service boundary line goes to from there. I know that we can see the lines where there's actual pipe in the ground. But the service boundary is not something that once it's set is there forever. There are ways to adjust the boundary. And one of those is through a petition to withdraw from the district. There are other ways, basically like similar to a disconnect in annexation. But so there's a few ways that we can get the boundary changed. In my opinion, it would be prudent to work on changing the boundaries before the connections are installed. And from what Bo's saying, there's a few months that you have to work with before the connections would actually need to be hooked up, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, from the work we were hearing in the time frames from the engineers we've been working with, it will take, Dennis, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're looking somewhere in the 3rd quarter of 2017.
Okay, so there's still time to work within the framework of Utah State Code, at least for the withdrawal process. And if you guys are going to authorize it, I can talk to Bo a little bit, point him in the right direction for how that works. As Ryan said, the city may be interested in doing a petition to withdraw some of the city's property simultaneously, and we may want to look at other things in that area. In the withdrawal process, there's a few different ways that it can happen. One is that the private property owners can be doing a petition that's based on the majority of the private property ownership. Can also be done with registered voters in the area, and that if a certain percentage of the registered voters within the area that's doing a petition to withdraw are in favor of it, then voters can file a petition. Municipalities and the county can file motions to withdraw, and then Johnson Water's board can make their own motion to withdraw property from their boundaries. And so it's possible that 3 of the 4 groups that can petition for withdrawal would be in favor of it. We'd have to explore that a little bit further. But right now, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, Aaron, I'm just offering advice. But my opinion is that especially where there's a little bit of time before the water is really needed, that we probably ought to explore those options and see if we can get the boundary changed, and so that there's just no issues there moving forward in the future.
Grant, who approves of that? Does it go like annexation at when the city's petition for annexation, the city is the final one to accept that in? Is Johnson Water the one that would accept or reject the proposal?
Well, ultimately, Johnson Water has to make a determination, and they're the first ones that do on the petitions. And within the state code, and both, what I'm referring to is 17B1 Part 5, and 504 specifically addresses the petition process, and I think 510 talks about the criteria that the local districts board has to consider in making a decision. The wording on it is interesting because it seems to favor both sides, which are competing, so it doesn't really make sense. But the wording it uses, like, they shall approve the petition to withdraw, and then it has circumstances, but then you get to the denial part and says it uses the exact same wording, that they shall deny, and then gives a list of circumstances for that. But they make the initial decision, but then there is a process in place under, it's still in Part 5, like maybe it was 510 that has the conditions, and 512 has basically the appeal process. But if there is a denial, then the sponsors of the petition can file for judicial review. And the wording for that says that a judge can't overturn the board's decision unless they find that it's arbitrary and capricious. But in this type of a situation, if Johnson doesn't have the infrastructure to provide the water that's needed by Strata, or if there are problems with the quality or something like that, then I think that there would probably be a fairly strong argument in this scenario to say that if the request to withdraw was denied, that the decision was arbitrary and capricious.
Does it complicate it at all, Grant, where we already, I mean, this problem has existed for many, many years. Our annexation boundary and Roosevelt City's boundary has been into that taxing district for decades.
Right.
They're already.
And it's not the only place that there's overlap in our service and Johnson Water's boundaries.
So I guess my thoughts and feelings with that, and the reason I make the motion that way, is I don't know that it complicates it any because it already exists. I do agree that moving forward to correct the problem is an excellent suggestion, but I look at that and say, does just 3 more water connections tip the scale any on that? I don't know.
And it's not something I can tell you either, because that's really something that is in Johnson Water's court, not ours, to decide what difference that makes to them and what, if any action they wanted to take to address it. In the past, they haven't done anything, but they could. With the other connections that you're talking about in that area, if Strata is in favor of doing a petition to withdraw, and the city, I would expect, might be as well, we could talk to the other property owners and maybe address those other connections at the same time through the same process, and possibly in a joint petition with everybody who's interested in withdrawing.
I don't claim to understand the legal side of it that well, but Johnson brings up fairly frequently, they have mentioned to us that, you know, from their standpoint, they feel their district there is tied to a bond, and relinquishing any of the area of that district affects the value of the bond to where they can't let it go even if they were willing to, is the impression they give me anyway.
Yeah, and the same part of the code, 17B, Chapter 1, Part 5, addresses that as well. And there has to be something to deal with that, because the lenders can't be the ones that are left out in the cold without any collateral on their investment. But we would have to figure out a way between everybody who was involved in the petition to withdraw how basically how Johnson Water would be compensated if the infrastructure was being taken over. I don't know exactly what the bonds are, and that's something that we would have to figure out as well. But the code specifically addresses that in depth in that same part.
So I've read the code, but it says that municipalities can provide services within that district, but I didn't read anything that really said we couldn't do what we're wanting to do, and the recourse or repercussions for doing that. So maybe you could explain that.
It's not real clear.
Well, that's my understanding as well. It's not really clear, but you did mention a few minutes ago the annexation disconnect. You used that term. Is that when the city annexes a portion of the property? I mean, is that?
No, it's a different process, because the city can annex over top of a service district's boundaries without affecting the service. And then you have to go through this separate process that's similar in the way that it works, but it's separate. It's not part of the annexation process to bring something into the city limits.
I think from Strata's perspective, we don't want to create any discontent from any side, obviously, but we do have some time frames and some timelines that we want to meet, and some budgetary issues that we've already, gone that road with. So I'll leave it in your hands at that point. We really want to move on this and obviously get it going. How many of the property owners to the east of that are, I guess, utilizing city services or the city water connections already? I mean,
I think all of that line are. They have a water connection, is my understanding, in 2000 West. Where
D.A. McCray, I think that's the lot next to Western, is that right?
Yeah, but they're coming off of
They're coming off of ours.
Oh, they're coming off of ours.
Because they extended their water and sewer, and they built that facility.
So where is this in relation to B&A?
So I think it's this is Western. Not this lot, that would be the next one.
And the reason why I ask that is who would rope into that petition? Would it be already property owners that are hooked up to the city water already? Or,
No,
would it just be us, I guess, is that?
Well, Western, I think Western actually comes off of the line to the north.
They come off both. They have one to the south, and they come off for their building to the north. I think from that side, I think like an annexation, we'd probably go out and pursue who else was interested in disconnecting from them and having, I see those that would be providing from the city side. I can't imagine they wouldn't want disconnect, wouldn't want to add on to that.
To answer your question, Bo, the only thing that code says is that islands and peninsulas can't be created. It's either serviced by the city or Johnson. And so we'd be looking to have a contiguous piece with everybody that was interested in a withdrawal. But where the city owns a very substantial piece of property with the airport, if that was part of it, we'd probably be looking to have that connect back to this. I assume it wouldn't be my decision.
Well, gentlemen, I thought it was a simple request. Nothing to say bad about attorneys.
We don't want to be a wrench in Strata's plans either though, and so we need to
But if
get this resolved.
If we got our heads together and we feel like a joint petition, I mean, I think that would, if we can be done efficiently and quickly, I mean, we're open to that. But if we feel like it's a non-issue or an issue that can be addressed at a later time that won't crunch what we've got set in place and already in motion, a lot of this is just based upon assumptions that we were purchasing property that was within the city limits. That would be preferable. So, I mean, that's obviously strategy and choice, but. And we would still continue to work with that petition process to disconnect from that district.
Who has authority on this type of an issue? Is it a state or county, or I assume the law you're reading or quoting is state law?
That's state code.
So who do we contact? Maybe somebody, everybody knows but me, I don't know.
Well, the petitions are directed to Johnson Water, and so I was telling you that I think there are 3 possible groups that could be filing petitions. All of them would be directed back to Johnson Water Board. And then there are time limitations on how much time they have to make a decision. And then, like I said, ultimately, if they deny the petition, then there's judicial review.
Motion, Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion. I still make the motion that we grant the 3 water requests, but with that motion, that we give directive to our city manager to lead in the petition process and exploring that out with Roosevelt City's own airport property in mind.
Okay, do you still second that, Albert? We do have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds like we're moving, maybe not big jump, but
Moving forward, and just to be on the record, Strata will obviously work with whoever needs to be worked with to facilitate the petition as a property owner in that area. So, I mean,
thank you. We're really thrilled that we're thrilled with all Strata does anyway, but to have that wonderful addition to our industrial park is really positive in our mind. It's great.
So we're excited as well.
So we're happy to
council
and appreciative.
We are very excited. We're hoping to be good neighbors there, and it's going to be very nice. It'll be very nice when we're done. So
Sure. Thank you very much, and my only concern is let's not drop the ball. Let's you get after us if you need to, and we'll get after you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. Our next item is the 2017 Street and Infrastructure Improvement Project discussion. Ryan, would you lead us on that, please?
Yeah. I haven't talked with Strata specifically, but I have talked with some other ones, and so I asked just if you'd stay for just a minute. What we're looking at here is we have a construction project for the drainage on 8 South, and so we have the drainage and the road improvement project. And so at that point, combined, that's a $2 million project. We have in the budget for this year $300,000 for chipping, for maintenance of our roads. And as we looked, we said, you know, if we could take 17's this year's $300,000 for chipping, and if we could take the amount we have in the budget for 18, which would start July 1st, but if we could combine that into a single project, and we would be looking at a $2.6 million project. With that, you know, 2.6, if we combine it together, we'd probably get more bidders to come out and more interest. One of the other things, we do have a little bit of of interest in that property that we just talked about. One of those pieces is being able to have a water and sewer line go up through 2 of those lots and feed into our airport so that we could then eventually build the loop. So we have some interest in the property, in the development that Strata is doing. But if we took and figured that their project was even $500,000, and I'm not sure if they have that estimate yet or not, but if we took that, and then we've also approached, there is, with the school district and UBMC, they're talking about a road on the west side of the villa, so that would connect from Highway 121 up to the old middle school, or Kings Peak Elementary now. And so we've talked to them, and potentially, if they had another project that was $500,000, we would be looking at a $3.6 to $4 million project. At that point, we feel that if we could combine in partnership a few of those projects, we could attract some larger contractors that we might not attract if they're individual and single projects. We'd like to investigate that and go down that road and be able to work with partners, and I don't know whether Strata might be interested in having that. But at that point, we feel that maybe being able to consolidate some of these projects together into one project, we could potentially attract either more competition or lower prices. And that might be a way we could facilitate helping on some of these projects. And so at that point, unless you have some questions, I'd be interested to see if you'd be willing to let the city proceed on that route and be able to have that project. We would bid it out in the next couple of months. So if you're okay with us proceeding that way.
We need a motion on that unless you have other questions.
Mayor, I'll move that we proceed. I think that it's fantastic to put a project like this together. We get better pricing. In the end, I think all of the partners involved will win and be benefited. So I move that we approve this and go forward.
Thank you. Albert, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Justin. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, does that include the 615 and 2 then, Ryan, in that?
What's that?
Is the 800 South Plat Amendment, that's separate?
Yes, separate one. I'll talk about that just here.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Andy?
Thank you. So we are working with the direction of the council previously. We've gone and hired a third party to help us with our right-of-way acquisitions on 8th South. And so we've gone and Allred Surveying has helped us to put a plat together. And so I brought that for you to see. I do have 2 other ones of these, so I'll set them out so that you can see those. One here, Aaron, I'll show you here. So at this point, it doesn't show there, but you will note where we're at with the red lines. That is the Moon Lake's power line, and so I figured some of the group would be interested in knowing. So we'd have our sidewalk along, potentially down, so the sidewalk we'd have to move some poles on this end, but the sidewalk is there and down here, if that makes sense.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, probably 4.
Dark gray.
So, but we're looking into to proceeding as we move forward. I think Hal, you've had some discussions. Has already been It doesn't get you? Okay. Okay, so you're aware, I wanna make sure you're aware of this, what we're doing here.
He came by, he said, I don't wanna get shot.
Yes, nor do I, but,
Stonebridge apartment. Okay,
we
that's
are
back
looking
behind
at
there.
that, and it would
So,
require the right of way
thought Hal
in
Huff would have
place.
been here somewhere. Apparently not.
And this goes, yeah.
I thought
So
he
at
lived
that
in
point,
there
that's
too.
kind of what we're looking at. It's our project, what we'll do, we'd like to record this and then be able to reference in those right-of-way agreements this plat, so that then it can be recorded and easy, searched, and so, anyway, the road, the right-of-way has been there, the road's kind of there, but this would clean up that and make sure that all of the, ownership lines are in line. So anyway, we want to bring it to you guys and see if we could get approval to move forward.
Just one question.
Yes.
Gary in white is already right away.
Correct, that's correct.
I think the alignment of the road is as good as we possibly could hope to mitigate for Moon Lake, so.
Anyway, I think we've tried to do what we can, and so we'd like
Yeah,
to.
we've looked at this.
It's many years.
It was several years ago, we looked at this several different ways, and it's nice to, finally get the property lines nailed down exactly where everybody believes it belongs.
Yes, so, and it's been surveyed, and, they've been out there
The
doing some
school
work.
own this, or does the city
this is
own
what-
this?
The property owners along there, so I
This
think they're
is the
making good
school
progress.
right
I
there.
think that was a wise decision to be able to bring them on, because they have been helpful. And so,
This is-
anyway.
Anybody have any other questions? We would need a motion to approve going forward with this
Yes,
plan.
and then you sign the back.
So moved, Mayor.
Do we have a motion? Have a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Second from Troy. Any other questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any motion carries.
Wonderful, appreciate your help there. I think we're making progress towards this. We have, we've got money, we've got most of our money for sidewalks. We've got money for storm drain and water. So we are lacking sewer. But what my hope would be, and one of the things I'd like to include in the 2017 project we just talked about, was adding the sewer line in hopes that if we can bid it out and get good enough pricing, then we could get the sewer line completed. And so that's the nice benefit of having a bigger project, is that we could potentially get some more things done that we don't currently have the money for. So that's kind of our hope. We'll wrap that into this project as well. So anyway, but that's where we're moving forward. They are moving forward with the other right of way that we have out in the west. So anyway.
Thank you very much. Okay. We've got to finish with what we got, so nobody else can leave now.
I can't.
Until we finish the agenda. Okay. Let's go to resolution number 2017-2178.
It's actually 278, Mayor.
Oh, on 278. 2017-278. Municipal wastewater planning program. John, would you like to lead us in that?
Absolutely. I can't compete with the other exciting events of the evening, but I'll do my best. This is a yearly self-assessment report that the Utah Department of Environmental Quality requires us to do. We did the same thing last year, if you recall. We basically go through their forms, and I included a copy of that in the PO folder, purchase order folder, if you're interested in taking another look at that. It basically goes through some of the specs that are required for our sewer system, whether it's treatment or facilities, and also the financial backing to support the sewer system. We go through and fill this form out, and then we're required to present it to council and go through it. or at least in brief, as we've done right now, and request a motion to approve this self-assessment report. At least as I've seen it from the past year, I've seen some improvements that way relative to sinking funds and planning for the future in a 5-year outlook. So I believe that we're on a good course for the sewer system. So any other questions you guys have?
No questions? Let's see, probably don't have a motion on that then, don't we?
I'll make the motion that we accept the proposal, I guess, or whatever it is. Plan.
Thank you, Councilman Rohr. We appreciate that. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Councilman White. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We do appreciate what you do for us, John. The next item is the airport board appointments decision. In leading into that, I'd just like to say we've gone for several months now, I don't know just how many, without a functioning airport board. We've advertised and we've had practically no response at all to the advertising, and we're spending money for advertising, and with a full-time operator out there now, I don't know how much we need a board at this time. It's something we can always bring up later if the council feels that we need to continue pressing for that board and advertising for it. That's fine, but if you want to consider letting it go as it's been going and see how we get along and address it at a later date if we need to, that's an option too. So that's just my.
How is it running, Albert? Fine out there? I mean, is there any, other than personalities and?
You know, even that's calmed down tremendously. And in looking back since the last meeting that the board held to today, and what they could have talked about since then, I mean, I can't even think of a single issue that the board could have helped us on. Nothing has gone on, and that's how it goes at the airport. We have to put things on the timeline, the 1 year, the 5 year, the 10 year, and then until that time comes along, there's really not much that the airport can do to grow or make changes until the FAA says, okay, it's 2021 and now you get a new runway, and then we might need some collaboration from a board, but we might go years where they just frankly have nothing to talk about besides personalities, conflicts.
How many planes land today?
I think we're in the 35 range. I'd have to look on there now. I can't remember how many operations. And an operations is a takeoff and a landing, so you could have two. Do you have your nav pulled up?
I don't, but it's in that range. You know, if we get over a certain amount, then we can become reasonable. But we have some traffic. It comes and goes. Sometimes it's busier, but 35 a day is probably in the range.
Depends on if we have students doing practices. But there's two ways to justify airports by the FAA standards, and that's operations, takeoffs and landings, and then also airplanes that are based at the airfield. We have a high number of aircraft that are based at our airport compared to even Vernal. I think we have more than Vernal.
We have
based at our airfield. So in that standpoint, we're a fairly large airport. Our operations vary.
Thanks.
One of the next things, restricting factor is being able to have money. So when we can get our own money put together, we can take it to the FAA and they match 94 to 6. So they'll match 94% of the money to our 6%. So if we can get significant amount to be able to invest into it, we could have more of an airport. But that's kind of the match. You know, Howard and I, there's a, conferences twice a year that all the airport managers meet at, and we meet with the FAA. So we've got our meeting, Thursday with the FAA, and, so I'll go from Salt Lake to St. George for that, and be able to meet with the FAA. Howard and I will meet with them this week. So, but a large board wouldn't help that anymore. Having a board be there doesn't make a difference. It's just, you know, they have one from the FAA, one from the state aeronautics. So, you know, it's not like it's a big board. It's not like you're going to beg like you would for a CIV application. It's here's where you rank, here's where you're at, here's how much money you have to put in, here's what we think you can have back.
So we just need to know from the council, do you want us to keep spending money on advertising for the board, or should we let it ride, or any other options that you have in mind that you might? Okay.
This is my opinion, and I'll make a motion, that we leave it on the ordinance. We don't dissolve it, because then when we need it again, it's easier to bring it back. But that we cease advertising and wait for either the need to arise or people to step forward and ask to be on the board.
Okay, great. So that's his motion. Do we have a second?
I'd second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Orr. Any other discussion?
I had a thought that before this new resolution to create the board differently than it was previous, before people, non-residents of Roosevelt, were allowed to be on that.
One.
Just one.
I don't know that the ordinance ever allowed it, but it was allowed from the council side.
And I just wondered, I know there's a reason why we said it just Roosevelt residents only, but down the road, if ever arises that it would be beneficial to the city to allow someone who operates out of the Roosevelt Airport and has vested interest in, you know, the same as the city. I just wondered if that was limiting the number of people that wanted to be on the board, because a lot of the people that use the airport or are interested in the airport don't actually live in the city. That was just my only thought, and I don't know.
My thought would be, that's a great reason to have an organization. It's a great reason to have a club, because it doesn't restrict that. But when you're having a recommendation from a resident body, you know, I think it plays back to those that are residents.
Right.
You know, they're the ones that are electing, they're the ones that are being represented, and it's their investment into the airport. We wouldn't have planning and zoning from out of the town, out of the community. We wouldn't have allowed those on the golf when it was in ordinance. It's consistent with not with having. That's one of the benefits you get from living in the city, is you get to serve on boards and committees. You get to run for council. Those are some of the benefits that come along with that. But a club, anybody can get together, and you know, I think this body has been shown that we're willing to have input from various groups, but to have an organized body that would represent outside, I'd recommend against it. But a club could easily organize, and they could accomplish great things. Our Kim Hales for arts. She doesn't live in the city, but does a great deal for the city, and we appreciate her effort. But if it was an ordinance committee, and it needed to be that way, there are some rules that would follow there. But outside of it, you know, we gain great things from the Rotary, but it doesn't require it. We gain great things from the Arts Council, but it doesn't require, because they're not in ordinance. So
that part I understood, but I was just a little bit wondering about the people before being able, at least one not being from the city on that, and how that.
The board met twice in the previous 5 years, so it wasn't like it was.
did not function.
Yeah, I don't.
So, anyway, I was just wondering how we could get more interest in it, but you know, I don't know that.
We added an area where Jim
Right.
Marshall is a pilot. He lives in the area, and could have easily applied now that he's
Right.
annexed in. He couldn't have
Right.
before, and I think that may have added others. I don't know all the ones that live out there, but anyway.
Thank you for that comment.
No problem.
We do have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. And final agenda item, Ryan, would you like to address the code update?
Oh, I would. I love more codes. We get going on these and they are.
I know why Aaron left.
We've all got an appointment at 12 after. Just so you know.
So this is, we have had Grant go back over, review our legal code. These are two ordinances, and we'll give them to you. But they are just changing the appeals period, which we've addressed in some spots. This just resolves a few extra pieces on appealing the planning and zoning. And the other one is establishing some specific code sections for duties and responsibilities, and more around the enforcement officer, and kind of cleaning up a few of those pieces. You know, they are really more technical, as we have in the past. We've talked about these areas. Code publishing didn't create an ordinance for that, but as we had Grant go back and review code publishing items and recommendations, we just pulled these two out and said, you know, these probably were missing that process, and so we'd like to bring them and get them approved as well. At this point, we need to take them to a public hearing, so what we'd like from you tonight, if you're willing, is to allow these to go to a public hearing, so that we could then approve them at that point. So, if you're comfortable with that.
Mayor, I move we take these two ordinances to public hearing.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second from Councilman White. Any additional questions or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're getting towards the end here. I saw the purchase orders go by. Did everybody get to initial them?
Yes.
We do need a motion to accept the purchase orders as presented.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman White. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Rohr. Any other questions on the purchase orders? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, reports from standing committees, Parks and Recreation, Albert and Dustin.
We had our parks, should I start off? Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay, no problem.
We had our meeting on Monday. Last meeting that he'll kind of chair that meeting, and he had a good party on Monday. A good turnout of people and a good poem, roasting him a little bit, and some funny shirts and gifts. I think the city did an outstanding job of showing our appreciation for Mutt.
36 years. Pretty good, wasn't it?
6 years, and he said, you know, he hoped that he was good to the city, and he knows that the city's been good to him. We're gonna be sad to see him leave. But a lot of things are coming up with parks, getting the golf course ready, plays picking up already because of the beautiful weather, and just getting the fields and everything ready for the upcoming activities. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's where we're at. So just getting ready for all the activities to come. Just warming up.
council about, we had a meeting with the Trails Committee, and we're getting ready and excited to put in our first phase of that, which would be the BMX pump track inside the walking path. We have one guy on the committee that has some experience in designing those types of things, and we're trying to weigh out if it's worth just getting guys with shovels and the city crew with equipment and some dirt and just formulating a plan amongst ourselves and building it, or paying an individual to come up with that design and to kind of lead the construction. We don't have it budgeted, and so it would have to be either found in the budget or put in next year's budget. But what he is requesting is a fee of $2,500 to design the track and lead the construction, which, if you look at other tracks, I think they're way more than that if you outsource it to somebody. At $2,500, we'd have to get 3 bids on that, right?
Right. Our purchasing policy would ask for 3 quotes.
Which could do a couple things. It could maybe make the price lower. It could also make it much higher. So I think as a council, what we're looking for the trail committee is more how in depth, how much of our resources do we want to put towards something like this. We'd rather say let's build it and not pay anybody and just see what we can build with volunteers, and if it stinks we'll do something else, or should we say try it right the first time? And I'm not, this guy, like I said, has built things for himself, but he's never gone out, and he's not a professional trail builder, so maybe we would find somebody else that might.
Right, and we're talking about the pump track.
Just the pump track inside the walk, not the cross-country trail.
Not the trail. I think a few of you were here last time, not
right.
that. So, yeah, that's the question. We're kind of, right now everybody's been just volunteering their time, their effort, and kind of putting together some of this and getting it rolling. This would be a purchase, obviously, and it's a little different than just volunteers going out and making something happen. But
Is the $2,500 for them to build or just to design?
Design and spearhead the building. So the city would provide the dirt and probably the equipment, and then we would have other people helping, but he would be the one saying this is how it's going to go, and okay, I need you over here shoveling and spend his time generaling it.
I'd probably have a little heartburn pain with somebody that's not an actual person that does it. If I understand right, the golf course back nine was built by Gordy Harmston going. And so I can't remember some of that, and I don't know how much truth that was or not, if it was how designed it was. A lot of truth to that. So, I don't think we paid Mr. Harmston much money to go design a golf course.
I think this is would be a great asset to the city. It adds one more thing the kids can do, and we're looking at it. Our projects are first to build this pump track, second to build the cross-country track for the high school and everyone, but our crown jewel is to finish the gulch. And so we're seeing this pump track as the low-hanging fruit, the easy project to gain momentum, plus it builds something nice for the city. That's why I'm so in favor of having this happen. It's the first.
Well, I think I would definitely agree with the city equipment, dirt stuff, but I don't know. Maybe that's just.
One of the questions I have, I guess, we did go to a UDOT meeting today. They did say that some of the grant money is matched. Is it a point that if we put it in early, are we not going to be able to count it towards that soft match, or is it something we can use towards our soft match? Because if we're going to have it and we can get grant money to double it in the future, it might be nice to know at what point that's spent so that it can be used for soft match.
When does that kick in?
Is
So,
that fair
the
question?
yeah, that's a good question, and I'll get it, I honestly don't have the answer for you today, but there usually is a date, you know, what, the date you're approved or whatever, anything spent beyond that can be considered match. And this is one, we were trying to get it in like early summer, I mean, get it completed in a short time frame. It is one that we could go after, like RTP funding to do something like this, but it's still a 50-50. You still have to come up 50% of the money the city would, even if we were funded. And that's a May 1st deadline, but that's not when the decision happens. That's when the applications are in, and then there's a process obviously to go through and be selected, and then the money's not available till 2018 or 2018 fiscal year, 2018 fiscal year, which would be October. And for something like this, I don't think you have to. We don't want to wait that long, and it's kind of a small thing. The average price tag of awarded project through that RTP fund is like $39,000 or $37,000. This is like I'd hate to waste. There's bigger fish we could get with that. Maybe something in the Gulch or something, that I wouldn't want to go after something this size with that, because we're not, this is something I think we could do a lot with volunteers. It would be nice to have somebody with a little experience, but like I said, this person has some experience, but they don't have it's not their business. It's not, they're not a professional firm that does this. So as a committee, we haven't brought it for the rest of the committee. Albert and I have talked a little bit about it, but as the Trails Committee, we're, just wanting to fill out what the city would think about going and having it, where it has a price tag to it now. Which way you would lean, and that's going to help us make a decision moving forward as well, where we can go.
How available is some city equipment? I mean, do we have the manpower? I know we have some equipment, but do we have the manpower available generally that we could accomplish this?
Depending on how long it takes. Understand that our entire public works department is a 5-guy crew. We've lost one, we're replacing one, so we're down to 4, but we're getting back to 5. And so, our hope was that we would have some equipment and some time, but most of that time would be from the group. We'd be able to have some commitment in there. I think we have some great talent with that equipment.
Are non-city employees allowed to use our backhoes?
That was another question I had, because he wanted to.
I'd have to check with the insurance. I wouldn't think so.
That would be my
questionable thing.
But at that point, if it was designed and we could do the backhoe work in one day, and then let the rest of it, kind of work out, if we could do those pieces, and not have the city crew there.
And we might be able to find some like Sunbelt Reynolds really good to work with as far as bringing up a couple of skid steers or something like that. And there's some different avenues, that you could definitely find that wouldn't, for like the backhoes and that would be a different. You can find people. I can donate a skid steer for a weekend. If you guys are up there on a weekend, we have one the dump trailer. I would definitely be interested in doing that more. So,
What about more fundraising efforts? If you're not talking about big dollars, then maybe the community, people who want that.
That's another avenue.
Yep.
You said that skate park, I think
And skate park started with that. They worked their hearts out, had fundraisers and all kinds of things. It wasn't big money, but it got something started.
Yeah, and that is another avenue we could pursue.
What exactly is the scope of the BMX trail you're talking about?
Yeah, the pump track. It's a smaller contained inside the walking path, just a track with some jumps and
How high are we talking jumps? Small, 10 feet tall?
Not huge. If you go down to there's one in Moab you look at and go, what in the world is they jump this stuff? Yeah. But we're not thinking it's something like that. It's something that kids could do. There'd be features for them, but also even adults on mountain bikes or something like that.
And you can build it so that it can go off in 2 different areas, so that you could have like UBIC or in other events have BMX races there, so the kids could race and they wouldn't be side by side, crashing. The trails go in similar ways.
I would think the hospital would donate.
Right. Yeah.
The skate park's probably pushed, a ton of money to them. I know.
Put some patience over there.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a question, if it's dirt going up down like this, if it's just people piling dirt together versus a plan, wouldn't the plan, the angles, wouldn't they be planned versus, just people piling dirt?
And that's a good comment, yeah. Yeah, and regardless of how we do this, we will have a plan before we start.
Right.
It's a matter of, do we pay a consultant?
Make
Right now, we're just gonna, we were gonna come up with a plan volunteer basis before we ever start it.
I'm thinking the angles of the dirt landing right or versus wrong.
It's definitely not as, how do I say that? It's not like designing a bridge. It's a little different. It's more of a, you don't have to have angles, just, it has to be 13 degrees.
Because the angles vary on how fast
it
you're
would
going.
vary,
So one
yeah.
person going faster than the other one would need a different landing, but.
Right, yeah. But there's not strict calculations you would do for each. It's more of a, it's almost like a golf course. If you've been around to the design of a golf course, I don't know if you were at Millsite Golf Course, we were involved in the irrigation system. We had a golf pro out there that was doing the actual layout, and it's more of a art than an exact science. At least that's what, he was out there directing things as they were going, and anyway, there's rules of thumb to live by, but not.
Who does the maintenance on it afterwards? Just the trail committee? Because obviously it's going to be.
We'd need the city help on some areas, like obviously where the track is, it won't grow weeds, but maybe on the sides might need to be sprayed when we're doing our spraying. But as far as when it rains and we start to get ruts, the people that are using it will be responsible for fixing it back up. We wouldn't expect the city crew to come back in and patch it. Maybe
hopefully that trails committee can help spearhead a lot of that.
Have build days twice
Yeah,
a year.
perfect. I think it's awesome. Anything you have. How does it affect the mud run people?
It'll go around that inside so they can play together.
Oh, perfect.
There's enough space in there.
Yeah, there's plenty of space.
Anything to clean it up's got to be better than
right
what's
now,
there now.
Just weeds.
Yeah, weeds and
Seems to me like
fireworks tubes.
if we could get, like Troy said, some help from some of the people who have a little bit of equipment, utilize city equipment where we can, utilize the bikers in the community that are obviously going to want this. The main thing is getting the word out after a kind of a basic design is made, and then you guys that ride bikes all the time and know what you want in the track. Why, I don't know. I think we could maybe get it accomplished with just volunteer. But that's just my thought.
And we'd be happy on the city side to have an account that we could put any fundraising into so that it wasn't fundraising and donating it to an individual. If you wanted us to house that so that there was the financial oversight to have the funds come in and spend that way, we could create an account that would come in so that we could show here's what came in, here's what went out, and be able to oversee the financials if that would be helpful.
So if the city did that, but it was still commissioned by the Trails Committee, would we still have the purchasing policy in place?
Yeah, if it goes through the city, we'd still have the purchasing policy. If the funds went through the city,
they've got to go through an entity, and right now the Trails Committee isn't set up as an entity that can accept funds and donations and things. That's not.
And I think the city could accept donations and could do that. And then if it was, spent back out, we would hold it as in trust and not necessarily as a city asset. We'd hold it as a liability to us. And so we'd give that back. We do that with bonds for the court. We do we're a pass through on that. So anyway, it might be an option. I guess we'd have to look if it wasn't city funds, it was all fundraised funds, and we were just helping to pass that through. I'd have to look to see if our purchasing policy on the quotes would still be there. So we could review that and see.
I would think that we'd almost be able to bypass it through that.
And I think calling to get some quotes, being able to get some, at least is the effort of trying to, the idea is giving the effort to have to know that you've got the right price. If you can't get 3 because there aren't 3 that will do it, then we have a means that would work. We can work that, but it asks the attempt is really what the intention of the policy is, the attempt to get multiple prices so that you could see whether it's in line. So.
Yeah.
But I think at 2,000, if we could go down to 2,000, we're below that threshold. So it just 2,500 is our threshold there. So as it's there, it requires it. If it's less than that, then it wouldn't require it.
So 2450.
And I do want to clarify that it's not me. It's not me. It's not Albert or I that are at the same 2,500. It's coming. It's a different.
But you're the engineer over this project.
Well, I don't think I have a contract for this. But yeah, we're helping. I mean, obviously donating help to develop a plan and things like that. But yeah, I just wanted to clarify. It wasn't anybody in the room. 2,500.
Okay. Any other thoughts or direction or consensus from the council?
I think we need to keep digging into it.
Okay, we'll keep exploring and find ways to do it.
Have you got more of a group than just you two?
Yes. Yeah.
How many?
Right now we've got, with Irene, we've got 6 now with
2 more coming.
With 2 more coming. And we're about, at some point, as we get through, as the master planning process, the Duchesne County Trails master planning process comes about, we're going to have people join that committee from entities like the Forest Service, the BLM, that can bring in expertise that
I would, as far as like this small, I'd probably stretch it, even reach out to John Hyder. He's a big bike rider and has really been into it for a long time. And he actually comes with some resources from Berry Petroleum and stuff. So it's an idea for you.
Good. That's a good one, yeah.
Okay.
Hello, John.
Appreciate you guys.
On the Park and Rec, so I was talking to Ben Birchall, and he was up there, and he's noticed and talked that they actually have lowered the blades on the field grass and stuff. So that's all positive. Just from our.
We have brought in sand that matches the specifications to put on.
So we just didn't put a bunch of blow sand with some 3/4 minus. Thank you.
We have done that. We had it specially designed from Verdicts. We took samples from Vernals and samples from the specifications that it has, and we had them.
I had a big pile of it down at the high school. It's the same stuff they have at their fields.
We took it.
Oh, you took it too? That's where it went.
And it came from the high school. So we tested. We took a 5-gallon bucket. We got approval for that.
That's $150 a ton. So,
actually, we got it for $64. But it was $150 a ton. But because we worked with a partner here in town and didn't have to have the delivery on top of the $150, we got it from $150 a ton in Salt Lake to $64 a ton delivery here.
Perfect. That's
so
awesome.
We appreciate our partner there, and we were able to do more than the one field, and we're looking to do another one each year.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Did Lauren?
Who's leading the charge with boys baseball this year?
That's another thing so I can't remember who they just put in charge of it. They had 4 meetings that they'd get the same 4 people. I went one time, just for more like the city kind of part, but no, they have a hard time with the transition between people.
I had an email. They've got it set up to where it's one of the problems before it was just Craig and Megan mostly shouldering the responsibility of doing that. I don't know if that's because they couldn't get help or didn't try hard enough to get help.
No, they were the big pushers of it for about 3 or 4 years.
But now,
then there was somebody else before that, and then
now
somebody else before that.
their recommendation was that they choose a president, which is, I have an email, it's not on my computer here for some reason, but they do have a president, they have the committee set up. I did get an email that said all that, and they've got 10 to 12 people now that are going to shoulder the
future reference. We're going to be kind of unique. We're going to have the ability to have 8 gyms within a very short distance as soon as the new high school is built. We really can start pushing some volleyball, tournaments and volleyball and basketball, girls basketball. There's a lot of stuff that can be pushed from a direct.
Brent is excited about that. I think he proposed a few possibles, trying to figure out what he can do. He's filling out his new role into that realm, and
I think he'll be good at that new role.
Yes, I think really, yeah. When he did the golf course, he actually as well as he played for a long time. So there was a big drop off when he left. So.
And Mark, in his closing remarks, said, "I expect the city to do things different than when I was here, and I hope they do."
Yeah,
he's okay with the changes, and I think Brent's going to bring some of those changes.
we're excited towards that, and we are balancing his time in the times that it's busy for rec, but also he would be in water, not necessarily in park. So in rec, he'll ramp up when there's rec, and then he'll go back to the water department.
Right. And then just on the other note, that I guess the high school's been using your field for their games, which is, I don't know, is the water turned on in the bathrooms yet down there?
I don't know whether they are, but they will. We'll start turning on water for the second week, for the first week of April. We'll start to turn on the water in the parks.
Is there any way that we could open that earlier, even if we kind of locked it up, put a heater in there, a floor heater or something?
Yeah, I think they're looking to, at this point, we don't think it's going to freeze much, and so we're looking to start turning all those things on.
Maybe even go as far as get the scoreboard up for them. It's actually a pretty good deal. They have, I know that it's a soft freshman ability, and I think they have 22 games scheduled for their, so more kids, more money spent. So it's actually good. They appreciate it. The city letting me use it for.
Anything else? No.
All I have, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, how about you, Dustin? Okay, well, Joe and Aaron are not here. Finance, you got anything there, Troy?
I think we have our meeting Monday, don't we?
Monday morning is
8 o'clock.
8 a.m. Will you have pancakes and bacon and eggs this time?
I'll see what I can whip up.
Yeah.
As long as you bring them, we'll have them.
You come at 5, they'll be ready. Come at 8, they're going to be gone.
Not that your company isn't greatly, I appreciate it, but, okay, we'll drop down to beautification, cleanup, and Basin Arts Council. Dustin, anything on those items?
I sent out an email just Sunday, I think, Sunday or Monday. I was wanting to know if the proposed dates were actually the ones that they finally picked, and they weren't. So those dates now are, it's not going to include an extra Saturday that's disconnected. It'll be April, where did I write it down? I wrote it down wrong here. Anybody?
We'll get it added to our calendar. So
It's April 22nd through 29th, so it'll be a Saturday to a Saturday. And before they had a Saturday to a Saturday plus an extra Saturday. So in my thinking, to set the first Saturday as the push to do a cleanup for citywide and have projects and things like that, I'll be meeting, the Interfaith Council will be meeting on April the 5th, I believe. I'll be meeting with them and just letting them know that those letters will be being sent out again. And then with with those letters. We probably have them all saved from last year. If you would send me the list of clergy that we sent out so I can go through and make sure if bishops have changed or whatever.
Send you the letters too, so that you can make changes to the letters, or?
I'm okay with the letters saying the same thing as they said last year. I just wanted to make sure they went to the right people. So that's really all I need. I think we send out, there was some other flyer or something that was made in conjunction with the clergy letters. I can't remember. It had some logo or some picture on it. Anyway, but I was thinking, I think last year, just like the first week in April, if we have those sent out by the end of that first week in April, should be fine. And that'll give me time to check. I may round up help from all of you who live in different parts of the town so I can know who different bishops are if there have been changes in the different stakes. But I'm thinking that there's not going to be a lot of changes from last year. Other than that, that's what our next big thing will be.
Great, appreciate that. Chamber of Commerce and Emergency Management, Charlie?
I was 15 minutes from the meeting that I got told about, and work grabbed me, and I was not able to attend. But I have it on my calendar for. Was you there? Did you attend?
I did take this last week to somewhere else, but I did send one of our staff.
Oh, okay. They said the oil field grabbed me, so I was unable.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the airport, Albert?
No.
We haven't covered. Anything from the city manager report?
I just have a couple of things. So we went through an energy audit, and we had some results come back of where we could possibly have some savings. Some of the accounts with Moon Lake that were active we hadn't been using, so we had a base fee. So we're working on identifying whether we need to keep those or whether there's a reason why we have those. Some of the meters with Questar are what I understand is a type 2 meter, and we only, based on our usage, we only need a type 1. So the monthly fee is higher than we probably need, and so we're looking at some of those. And with the gas for the pool, we would be looking at a yearly savings from doing this of about $17,500. So we're excited about our progress there, and we are making progress. We were nominated, and I believe we're a finalist for the Envision Utah, Your Future Award. So we'll find out in May.
Governor's coming back.
I don't know whether the governor will come back for that one, but I worked hard to get him here for this one, so I appreciate his effort. So
thank you.
That was
President
fantastic.
Trump comes for that one.
what's that?
I think President Trump comes for this.
Well, we'll have to get with Mike Pence and see how we can work that out. DEQ's meeting, so I'm sure that you are all excited and willing to attend. I think we're going to meet here probably at 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, so that we can all know and go out. So anybody that's interested, just meet here. So those that are going with us.
Are you on, Mayor?
I'm up in the air. I'm not sure if I can make it or not.
And Dustin, you had said you.
I want to go, but I just can't. I don't get off work till 7 in the morning, which I could work that, but my son came down with bad asthma. He almost got put in the hospital last night, so I just think I better not go.
Are you going, Albert?
I'm trying to figure out a way to make that happen. But so you're taking 2 cars then?
I need to go to St. George.
Afterwards,
so, right.
John's gonna drive out then?
Right.
Where's it at?
It's in Salt Lake. It's at the state building there by the tax commission. It's on 200 North and 1950 West.
Okay. The CIB meetings as well.
That's where the CIB meeting was last time.
200 North, 1900 West.
I think the meeting gets over about 11:30.
11:30.
Oh, we'll stay for the whole thing then?
Well, we're in the middle of the agenda, so we're not sure how long, so.
They can make
If it
you
was good
read.
weather, you file with me and, ride back with John if it was, but I don't know whether the weather's good enough.
What time does it start?
8:30. Yeah, probably by 3. So, I haven't ever presented to DEQ before, so it's an info.
It's getting dark at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's darker now than it used to be.
So,
The DEQ application, is it as necessary that we have a bunch of people there like CIB, or is this a formality?
no, I think we present twice to DEQ. I think this first one is probably our introductory to the project. The more we could have to the introductory, the more it moves it along. So if there's possibility you could, it would be nice. Because what we get at DEQ makes CIB much easier. So really, DEQ is that first domino. If we can get everything we want from DEQ, I think CIB will come in with the rest, and we'll make it.
I know
So,
CIB places an emphasis on having elected officials versus staff. Would you think DEQ will be the same?
I don't know that. I know that there are a few board members that are the same. Galecki, I think, well, you've had the pleasure. He is on both boards. So, and he is the loan guru. He loves loan. I think he'll offer us 100% loan if we'll take it. But I would ask, we'd like to have one from the elected body at least. I have asked, so I believe Byron's going, but he has some other things after, so he'll take his own. Jim Marshall, I believe, is going from the hospital. I've invited him to come. He lives in Stonegate, but is a medical professional as well as, or in that field. I think he could represent well for the community. Jordan Mathis is going, and John and I are going. So, we hope to have one from the council is what our hope was. So, when do you need to be back?
I'm not sure.
Noon.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we could use one of you.
I'm like a 70-30. 4. Just have to make some phone calls.
And I think if you were there late, if you couldn't come at the start of the meeting, I don't expect us to be on until
9:30.
9 or 10,
Okay.
9:30, 10 o'clock.
I could take care of a couple of things, and
So, that's a possibility as well. I don't know that, but I would guess, based on where we're at on the agenda, there's a few, I don't know how fast it goes, because I've never been to one of these. So, anyway, it's a mystery for me, so.
Mike, have you ever been to one of these?
The DEQ meetings? Yeah, it's been a little while though. They're similar to CIB meetings. It varies. It depends on what one we're doing and what we're. But if you got, it sounds like you got really good representation, even if nobody had, I think it would be helpful, but you've got a lot of.
We're trying to have this one a while, so they move along. And my goal would be that they just say, oh, hey, you guys really deserve this, fund you right now.
90%.
The last 3 with CID, they've done that for us, so that worked out really well. Dustin and Troy were there to make sure that happened, and great luck, so we appreciate it.
I don't really want to break my streak.
Anyway, we could use your help. So one of you.
Is that all you had?
I have a couple other ones. Just so that you're aware, I don't know whether any of you know, the Beehive Archive Drive. We have been selected, or we were nominated and selected to be one of three rural cities that they'll come to this year, and that is a fairly expensive cars. I think it's a $25,000 entry fee for the cars that enter to do this. They'll go around in different spots and tour rural Utah. So it's kind of a big deal.
I paid last year and then my car wouldn't start.
That's good. Well, then you should be in it this year. But they have, I mean, they've been through town, but they haven't stopped here. So they'll stop here. We'll feed them lunch, and they'll have some scholarships for some of the kids.
You like to see exotic cars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, that type of stuff. That's cool.
Yeah. So we'll bring them to the new park, bring them to Constitution Park, have them there, feed them a lunch, and so they'll usually have people that can come look at the cars, and so we'll try to make a big deal of it. So anyway,
Did you have a date on that?
What's that? Yeah, the 11th of June, I believe. Have to make sure of that. Nope, not the 11th. Why? I have July 13th actually, so it's July 13th. And they'll pay for the catering, we just have to arrange. So they take care of all the costs, they take care of all of that, and they, you know, they're pretty good. We've had one of our councilmen that's been in it before, one's not here, so. Yeah, we're excited. So, just to let you know that we've been able to get that to come to town. We think that's a good economic thing for us. We'll post something in their flyers about, you know, the city and kind of give them a little bit about us. Talked about that we received funding this last couple weeks about the water and storm drain in 800 South. So that helps us move that project forward. There is a meeting on March 27th about the EPA Brownsfield grant. Any interested business owner could attend that. We're hoping to be able to get that $550,000 out to some businesses to help them identify whether there's an EPA problem. So golf course is open. We're excited about that. We already talked about Mutt's retirement. Had a good time there, and staff was, you know, happy to celebrate with him. So we're working on a 5-year road improvement plan. We have asked the 3 engineering firms to come up with prices on what it would take, and so we're hoping to get a 5-year road improvement plan so we could look at how do we take our budget, the $300,000 a year that we've set aside for that budget, and how do we make that stretch over as much of our town and area as we can. And so we're looking at that, and we are working on creating a way to have people sign up for memberships for the aquatic center through their water bills, and we've got the back-end system in place, I believe, and we're just working on forms, and our goal is to send it out with the next water bills so they can sign up. So
Awesome. Will that be like a monthly or a one-time?
So they can sign up
Either way,
but it'll take it out on a monthly basis. Our pipe supplier just kind of we like when things happen well, but our pipe supplier is giving out calendars, and if you can recognize that that's our whole 15 on the very front of the calendar. We're excited to have them highlight us. They highlight other courses, and we were selected to be on
There's only one cover one.
On the very front, there's only one cover one. So anyway, we're excited about it. But that's my report. So if you have questions or things you need me to work on, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, has anybody thought of anything that we didn't cover that they need to? We're not going to meet again until the 18th of April, is that right?
Yeah, middle of April, yes. So we have the ULCT conference in St. George in our next meeting with you. So
We had someone else not gonna be here.
Joe will be back.
Joe will be back.
That will be his last one he'll be gone for, so we would need everybody else to have a quorum.
Oh, he won't be back
He
then.
won't be back.
So we, yeah, it'll be
So we will
important
have
that the
those
rest
two
of us
gone.
are here, so.
I didn't think there was that thing.
Okay, nothing else, we don't have any reason for a closed session, do we?
I don't believe
That
so,
I'm aware
no.
of. Okay, I entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, we are adjourned.
No.
I'll second it.
Now, remember what they told us that,
Oh, that's right. You don't have to.